Let's continue the conversation about what civilization looked like on the fragments of which we live. In my opinion, it was a territory with a radial ring layout where terrestrial rings were replaced by water ones. Plato wrote about such a device, but only within the framework of one state. I believe that according to this principle, the entire territory in which we now live was equipped. This is evidenced by such cartographic concepts as parallels and meridians, and it is a well-known fact that the Earth is round. It is round, not spherical. Moreover, the surface was smooth. This is evidenced by such a phenomenon as platforms. We know about platforms well from the course of school geography. It is impossible to ignore this fact. If you understand the etymology of the word platform, then it consists of two concepts, a plateau and a shape, which literally means a flat leveled surface. They will not call the surface with mountains, ridges, craters, lowlands, ravines a platform. Therefore, I believe that the early relief was flat, which helped to provide a good overview, or as we now say, a wide outlook, which literally means you see the picture of what is happening, so you own the information, respectively, you control the situation. The smooth surface of the earth and water rings ensured the free propagation of all waves and equal access for everyone to any source. Even now, modern urban planners use the ring principle, for example, in the construction of roads to improve cross-country ability. Note the non-pi hexagons, namely the ring. After all, the notorious angle even decomposes a ray of light into a spectrum. This happens not only with light, but also with sound waves. This phenomenon is called dispersion. This is when the whole ceases to exist. It breaks down into details. This is certainly an interesting topic, but not today's video. I said this because everything was thought out in the device of Atlantis, and with all the desire to distort information about the real situation of things, the invaders are still forced to use the original terminology. Therefore, we can safely rely on those information bases that they cannot hide from us. An example of this is the platform. The phenomenon is well known to everyone, but the information is given incomplete, fragmentary, sometimes even contradictory, so many questions arise. How, for example, do formations that have been formed for millions of years have ragged edges? Continents look like fragments. Having received an answer to this question, we will be able to answer other questions. Why are there so many platforms? Why do they have different levels? Some are on the surface, some are at the bottom of the ocean. Why are they moving, colliding with each other? What's wrong? After all, they are based on a powerful foundation of granite and basalt, where volcanic eruptions and earthquakes are practically excluded. What force could crumble centuries-old granite basalt formations and make them move? After all, they continue to run into each other until now, to such an extent that they form fences that are constantly gaining altitude, such as the Ural Mountains. It is obvious that the push to move the platforms was set by a global catastrophe that plunged Atlantis into chaos. Confusion in the position of platforms, splits, collisions, all these are the inertial processes of the same global catastrophe. What does the official science say to this? There was a shift of the Earth's axis. They associate this with the end of the Ice Age, either with the redistribution of water, Massachusetts, or with the movement of mantle flows. Scientists offer several options, most of them related to water. But official science still does not give a concrete answer why the axis shift occurred, which led to such global consequences. In general, rotation around the axis is an important element for science. It explains almost all physical phenomena, up to catastrophes. Indeed, rotation is an important point about which they could not keep silent, but they distorted everything so much. So what is the deception? Look, We live by time. The time is allocated for a day, 24 hours in a day. We are told that this is a complete revolution of the Earth around its axis, or to be more precise, it is 23 hours 56 minutes, not a minute more, not a minute less. And this happens from day to day, from month to month, from year to year, from century to century. That is, there is a clear periodicity and absolute accuracy, like a clock. And this is about an object that was formed by itself, survived a series of cataclysms, ice ages, floods, falling meteorites, axis displacement, pole change, and much more, not to mention the change in the activity of the moon and the sun, but continued to rotate like a clock. You will not think that such accuracy is more characteristic of a technical structure, where everything is clearly verified, and not for a natural object, which even has a shape that is not clear, either a ball or an ellipse, stretched somewhere, flattened somewhere. In general, we haven't decided yet. There are no options here. We are talking about a precisely verified technical object that sets the rhythm of our whole life. So what is it? Earlier I said that according to official science, the main factor influencing rotation is water. Indeed, there is more water than land. Oceans create cyclones and anticyclones and constantly change the water level. These are the well-known tides with a range of up to 18 meters. Imagine, every day the level of the world ocean can either fall or rise by 18 meters. Science insists that this is due to the influence of the moon, but for some reason, in closed seas, where there is much less water than in the oceans, and the moon seems to have a greater influence on the change in water level, tides are nevertheless not observed there. The influence of the moon does not apply to them. It only applies to the waters of the world ocean and to the seas that have access to it. So the trick is that the rotation actually occurs, but not of the Earth, but of a powerful technical object in the center of the Earth, the continuous activity of which is provided by the waters of the world ocean. At low tide, the water enters the object, and at high tide, it returns back. I'm talking about a giant hydraulic engineering structure, a turbine on a planetary scale. Her name is KOLOVRAT, which literally means a rotating wheel. Modern hydroelectric power plants are nothing but mini copies of the Earth's most important turbine. Having understood the work of the hydroelectric power station, and even school children can do it, you can understand how the rotifer works and what is necessary for this. Firstly, it is the presence of a reservoir. In our case, this is the world ocean, the water level of which is constantly changing. But no one understands what the purpose of this all-planetary phenomenon is. The water level changes every day by tens of meters, and no one knows why this happens. Is it just like that? And if you look at this situation from the point of view of mechanics, then the puzzle is laid out. Tides are nothing more than the operation of water intake and spillway devices in a hydraulic structure. For this reason, the range of water fluctuations in reservoirs near hydrotechnical structures practically coincides with the range of tides. In the first case, it is 20 meters, and in the second 18, and by the way, science even recognizes this. Of course, they do not name this as the main reason, but they still say that the water level changes, including due to rotation. Yes, of course, because of the rotation, but not the Earth, but the turbines. The second point is the types of currents that are layered, that is, laminar and vortex, otherwise turbulent. It is easy to understand that a layered stream of water flows into the turbine and exits it in the form of a vortex, a funnel with a vertical axis of rotation, and the rotational power is so strong that it spins the air flows. Therefore, planes get into turbulence. Yes, there are planes. The whole climate depends on it. Cyclones and anticyclones are nothing nothing but air vortex flows that directly depend on the flow of water coming out of the turbine. What can create air vortex flows with a diameter of hundreds of kilometers? In my opinion, the answer is obvious. This is the work of the turbine wheel with the vertical axis of rotation. The presence of such a phenomenon as turbulence implies the presence of a source that creates this turbulence. The answer in the word itself is a turbine. This word in many languages sounds the same, has a Latin origin, and as you know, Latin is the language of the Vatican, the main keeper of secrets. The third point, let's go back to the currents, which are also warm and cold. Science explains the emergence of these currents, again by rotation around the axis. Of course, they don't say turbines, they say the Earth, although it is the water turbines at the outlet that change the water temperature to such an extent that even Siberian rivers such as the Yenisei do not freeze in winter. That is, the change in water temperature directly depends on the operation of the power hydraulic machine. This is so obvious and is happening before our eyes. The fourth point is that the operation of the turbine involves a certain cycle, one of which is a spillway. At the same time, a powerful funnel is formed, and we can even calculate the location of the spillway. This is a place where unexplained and mysterious phenomena occur, such as the disappearance of airplanes, sea vessels. You probably already guessed, this is the Bermuda Triangle. It is in this place that the warm current of the Gulf Stream originates. Because of the water drain, ships are simply sucked in by a powerful water and air vortex. That's what happened in 1945 with American military aircraft during the next training. 5 planes disappeared without a trace, followed by another rescue plane. The suspicious thing about this whole story is that both the military and radio amateurs confirmed the presence of the crew's negotiations with dispatchers on that very ill-fated day. The pilots talked about the loss of the landmark and the streams of white water, but just a few days later, everyone said with one voice that they had not heard anything like this. Apparently they were threatened because there was a leak of information, because the white water directly indicates the presence of a vortex spillway. And fifthly, these are platforms that have a different level, which indicates their stepwise arrangement. In the last video, I said that the structure of Atlantis resembled a wedding cake. Just such a structure is necessary in order for the rotifort to work. Water from the upper layers enters the lower ones, which creates the necessary pressure that drives the turbine wheel. Why did they deceive us? Why don't they tell us the truth? Because it is a colossal source of energy which they dispose of as they want. I wonder what you think about this, and I'll finish. Thank you all for your attention. See you in the next video.